Good morning, Armor Down. What's up? Happy to be here. Happy to be training with you. And today we're going to continue the conversation about resiliency, and we're going to look at it in the context of what's called beginner's mind. This is just another example of all the different things that have been passed down to us by generations of thinkers who are addressing the same kind of stuff we're addressing. Now, granted, they're not dealing with the internet. They're not dealing with, flying cars or the metaverse and all that other kind of stuff. But really just like us. They got basically the same nervous system, same brain. It's all part of the human experience. We're basically dealing with the same stuff that we have the same gear that they had, and so there's so much to be offered to us if we can recognize how to interact with it. So, continuing to speak on resiliency, I think the military uses the word resiliency a lot, and part of that is how to create a resilient fighting force, a force that can adapt and can overcome challenges. And resiliency is very much integrated into the military in terms of how to develop resiliency first in the fighting force, and then how can those same tools be used to transition out of the military experience into your civilian experience. And that's kind of a form of resiliency, and they break it down into these different chunks that you should pay attention to. But what I want to talk about is a little bit more nuanced than that, and I kind of experienced it myself, and that is because we are working with this physical thing called the body, the brain, and our arms and our nervous system. I mean, this thing that we've got, it's got these limitations, and the limitations of our body mean we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to drink water, we have to do these things. And part of the limitation experience is that no matter how much you train, no matter how much you learn, no matter how much you know, no matter how mindful you are, no matter how many times you've practiced Armor Down, you're still going to experience times when you mess up. You meet a threshold and you just can't do anything about it, or you meet an experience that just throws you a little bit, and you just don't have the reserves to manage it. And I don't say this just to kind of give myself a pass, but I say this because there is no space where you're going to be perfect at everything. And I say that as much for myself as to remind you. And my experience with that was just the other night with my daughter and her grief about the loss of our family pet. And it's been about a month now since the family pet had to be put down because it was his time. And the other night, my daughter Allegra was really upset about it, and I was laying next to her, and we had gone through this same cycle of kind of grief many times, and many times uh, I've had the patience, I've had the open-heartedness, I've had the kind of just ease of just being with her grief and letting it be there and not having any kind of way it should be. And so the other night, same kind of thing. I think this was Tuesday night. So the other night, um, I'm sitting with her, and she's going back into this grief space, and she's making like these predictions about her experience, predictive processor, right? So she's predicting, I'll never have a best friend again, I'll never see him again, I'll never feel good again. So these kind of really big kind of thoughts, and each time she'll say one, she'll kind of get more upset. And I'm sitting next to her, I'm laying next to her, and I'm listening, and I'm going, kind of like, feeling the sadness and trying to just be with her. But this is going on 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and part of me wants to be done. Like, I just want to be out of there. Like the day had been a long day. It's the end of the day. I just want to chill out. So I'm trying to predict the right thing to say to kind of get her to hurry up and get through. It's just awful. So I'm kind of sitting there, and then I start to kind of question her grief. And I know part of my thought process was I have done all the patient stuff. I've done this, I've done that. Now I need to make some statements. I need to kind of get in there and, make this happen. And so I start kind of challenging her grief, and I start kind of challenging, is that really true? And then I said, if you're not careful, you got to be careful with grief. You could get lost in it. And I'm making these statements, and it's not helping. And then I'm just kind of like, ugh. And I know I'm saying things that aren't helpful for her because they're not helping her. And then thankfully, her mother came in, and Alina was able to just be compassionate, be sweet, and be loving, and talk about Marley in heaven eating chocolate, and how when he was around most, he made the worst farts ever, and how and so Allegra started to break out of her sadness and laugh and things like that. And so it's just kind of like, oh man, it was so evident that my engagement with that grief was subpar. It was terrible. I mean, think about like telling your daughter that you could dishonor the love of her life by grieving about him too much. And what kind of statement is that? I mean, here I am trying to encourage you to practice mindfulness and learn all about these inner worlds that you have, and I'm just totally terrible inside this moment. And so then the next day, early in the morning, there was another instance where something just didn't go right. And immediately my mind goes into this kind of loop of, you should have done this, or you should have done that. This needs to be this way, and this needs to be that way. And so in the past, when my mind would go into this space, this self-critical space, there would be all these different offshoots, right? So there would be like a doubt experience, a sadness experience, I didn't do good enough experience, and then all this other stuff would start sprouting out. And so the sprouting out could be like blame, could be self-doubt, could be anger, frustration, could be just any kind of shadowy kind of stuff. Well, now, fortunately, that just doesn't have the power that it used to. When things show up on the inside, they show up, I'm aware of them, and I don't really give them anything else. But imagine if I did. I mean, that's the thing about resiliency, is it's not so much that you never make a mistake or you never reach a threshold and totally blow it. That has nothing to do with it. What really matters about resiliency is how well you can respond to mistakes, or respond to meeting thresholds, or respond to losing your cool, how well you can respond to that. And this isn't a particularly new phenomenon. And the reason I know this is because there are ideas that have been out for thousands of years. One in particular is Shoshin in the Zen Buddhist context. And Shoshin translates to beginner's mind. So beginner's mind is the idea that every new moment, you can recognize that moment as fresh, new, and full of potential. And the idea is that if you cultivate a beginner's mind, then you won't get into a situation where you think you've got it figured out. And if you don't get into a situation where you think you've got it figured out, there's the opportunity to maintain curiosity. There's the opportunity to maintain a sense of presence. There's an opportunity, or not just an opportunity, there is a staying away from, this is really important, a staying away from kind of what the dark side of our minds can create when things get hard. And staying away from that means staying away from the predictive processor that can predict these dark, sad, down, negative, low, kind of shadow feelings, the feelings that kind of give contrast to life. But these feelings can pull you in. um, blame, that's a big one. Like, oh, I didn't make a mistake. This is this fault. This is that fault. This is this. So beginner's mind kind of prevents the predictive processor, that is the brain, from turning this mindset, this, oh, man, I screwed up again, into the prediction about the future. It literally gets in the way of that. Remember, you're thinking about your mind as this predictor. It's constantly predicting. And then from the prediction, it's assessing its predictions through the senses. And then once it gets an accurate kind of understanding of what's going on, it facilitates that reality. And then you're participating with this world as you are, as opposed to the way it is. So what beginner's mind does is it cuts that off. It cuts it off at the core. And so it doesn't grow. It doesn't metastasize. And metastasize it can. I mean, if you're paying attention to the way the world is trying to perceive, kind of the way the number one dictator in the world right now, Putin, is navigating his decision-making process, you've got to recognize that his process, his thinking process, includes these ways of seeing the world that render lots of things that a lot of people, most of the world arguably, holds dear. That the way it should be in his mind means that the ends justify the means of destroying a sovereign nation. And it's not just calculation. Remember, your mind, right? If you envision your brain as this predictive processor, and you see your brain as being able to kind of imagine the world and then interact with it, then that's what his mind is too. And when you listen to what he says, and when you listen to how he says what he says, it's not trying to be dark or mean. It's consumed by dark and meanness, to the point where dark and mean and evil and vicious do not register as dark and mean and evil and vicious. It is just the way it is. This is the way life is. So like, it's not, it's the opposite of beginner mind. It's certainty, right? Putin is certain about his way of seeing things. Certain, right? Other dictators are like that too. That's how they became dictators. They think that they know exactly what's going on and exactly how to establish it. Right? That's their thing. It's the opposite of beginner's mind. There's no humility there. There's no, oh geez, Matt, that was a mistake. That, I mean, we know this. We've seen it before. We see it a lot. There's this a power that people perceive as powerful, which is never taking accountability, never showing any weakness, never being wrong. Even when someone is shown their BS, they still will find a way to counter that BS with something else, so that they're not wrong. It's you. It's always pushing out. So it's the opposite of beginner's mind. The opposite of beginner's mind can facilitate darkness in such a way that it's not even seen as darkness. It's just seen as the way. And then you throw in these notions of, like self-importance, where, the ego becomes fully identified with its own value. And then you get these realities where we've got it. We've literally got it. Like we've got a reality where one guy thinks his entire nation is allowed to do whatever it wants. And that not only is it allowed to do whatever it wants, it can make its own history. It can project that history in the future. I mean, the opposite of beginner's mind is vicious. It is absolutely vicious. So the resiliency that you get from beginner's mind is that interpersonal engagement with the failings of you as a human, the flaws, right? The flaws that you and everyone else has. And so when you interact with one of your own flaws, you recognize not the flaw as, oh, this is the way it is and this is the way it's always going to be. You don't go into that creation of reality mode. You go into beginner's mind. You go into beginner's mind and you recognize, here I am. You recognize, oh, look at that. I'm still learning. Oh, the possibilities of continuing to learn are endless. And the last thing I'll say about this before we get into the training is I really think there's an element to the United States that offers a real embrace of this, really old idea. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's in our Pledge of Allegiance. And I mean, I really pay close attention to that because my job as operations director at the Virginia War Memorial means that my focus is on 4 parts, which is preserving history, honoring veterans, educating the youth, and inspiring patriotism in all. And everything we do in any kind of official capacity starts with the Pledge of Allegiance. And in the Pledge of Allegiance is that phrase, under God. And that phrase, under God, is integrated into all the statements that we make. Now, I do not like when politicians use Christianity, or it's mostly Christianity, use Christianity as God, right? God isn't Christianity. Christianity is an exploration of God through a particular kind of storyline. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful storyline. But God isn't Christianity. God is the unknown, the bigness, the universe, whatever you want to think of it. Bigger than you is the main point. So there's humility built into that statement, under God, so that, we don't know. And because we don't know, and because we built a system around the fact that we don't know, we have all this engagement in order to make decisions. And so our own system, arguably, we are more resilient in America than Russia. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and it's also playing out globally. The whole world's looking at this and being like, this whole dictator thing, that one guy running the show is a strong man. He'll figure everything out and he'll save us and blah, 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 blah. It's just garbage. It's just a bunch of junk. It is total junk. And because the reason it's junk is because once you become a dictator, nobody can question you. Okay, you became a dictator, you killed a lot of people, you're vicious, you're cruel, you know how to manipulate, and there's no checks and balances, so you're a dictator, and good for you, I guess. There's no resiliency there. Resiliency is things that you can pass on, that you can continue. There's no resiliency there. It's all showing up on the battlefield. You're just like, everyone's just kind of like, where's this vaunted Russian military fighting force? I mean, we got people in tractors stealing Russian tanks? Huh. Okay. So yeah, so that's my point, is like this ability to come back to, oh gosh, I am still learning. Okay. Beginner's mind. Shoshin, Zen Buddhism right there. So that's what we're going to practice today. We're going to emphasize that space. So, we've gone through first bell, second bell, third bell, fourth bell 100 times, right? But each time you go through with that non-judgmental present tense awareness. So, we're like, mindfulness is just another word for this stuff, right? This stuff's been around forever. This is wisdom teaching being passed along. And, all I'm doing is like giving it a new package and being like, hey, look, try this. So Shoshin, which has been around for thousands of years, taught by the Zen Buddhists, is just being repackaged by Armor Down and offered to you in the context of mindfulness. Mindfulness is just another word for these practices. So again, there's the reason to be beginner's mind. Like, I'm just Ben. I'm not particularly special. I'm taking advantage of technology. I'm practicing this with you and offering you guidance that's really helpful, I think, largely because I still need it. Like, I'll never not need it because I'm under God too. I'm just Just a guy trying to help myself and you be more resilient. It's volatile times right now. It really is. And anything that we can do to support ourselves means that we can bring that to other people. And thankfully, my wife was able to help me when I kind of got out of the best version of myself. And here, Allegra, here's how you should handle your grief. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Oy. All right. So beginner's mind. First bell. Okay, let's go into first bell like we've never been into first bell. And I guarantee you open yourself up to the possibility you'll notice something today that you just didn't notice before. And just be like, huh, neat. That's first bell. Well, that's what we're doing today. All right, let's do this. So come to the present moment. Start where you are. Mind, body, heart. Just tap in. Just bring your focus into the present moment. What's your mind doing? How's your mind processing? How's your mind predicting? Maybe your mind's quiet. Go into the body. What sensations are there? Is there any improvement that you can create? 1% to 2% more comfort? And in the heart, you got any emotions going on right now? Just noticing that. Now we'll go into the practice. So I haven't done sight in a while. So just kind of look around, and first things popping out for me are circles. Just finding circles. There's all these circles in my garage, and I typically don't look for just circles, but I'm going to just look for circles. Taming the mind, being curious. Just circles everywhere. Once you start to kind of see, it's like, oh, circles everywhere, circles everywhere. No, circles, they're just circles everywhere. Okay, I'll go ahead and quiet the eyes and turn up the ears. Close in, surrounded by silence. Silence exists 6 feet out. I'm just envisioning a circumference around me going 6 feet out between me and 6 feet on all sides, front, back, up and down, everywhere. No sound. So if I jump out to about 20 feet all around, now there's sound in the form of the motor in the refrigerator. If I jump out past the garage and out into the yard, I've got a slight sound of some birds. Okay, there's way out on the street by my house, there's a vehicle. I can tell it's moving. All right, I'm going to go to skin. I'm going to feel the sleeves of my shirt. I can feel the sleeves of my shirt. I can feel the underneath area. So the bottom of the sleeve by my armpit. I can feel that. My sleeves on the left, I can feel kind of open. I feel the sleeve open. So there's right at my sleeves, there's like 3 different temperatures. There's the temperature of my arm closest to my skin, kind of the inside of my left bicep. The outside of my arm, the sleeve is really open, so I can feel more air. It feels a little bit cooler on the top side of my arm. So I'm going to go travel in. I'm going to follow my skin in at the left sleeve, come across to the chest, feel the kind of uniform pressure, light pressure of the fabric on my chest, across my chest. Go up to the sensation of the collar of my shirt, noticing the collar of my shirt. Feeling that. Okay. Left and right side of my neck, I can feel the collar of my shirt. And I can feel when I move my head, the slightest pull of skin on fabric. In my awareness, I just registered uh, at closer birds, at more cars on the road. So that now the sound space is opening up. Okay, I'm going to switch from skin to smell. Start slow, bring my attention fully to the nose. At the end of the inhale, there's that cardboard smell. 75, 80, 90% of the inhale includes no smell. Oh, that's not right. If I breathe slow enough, the cardboard smell now shows up right away. Just noticing how smell smells. It's like I'm just opening the possibility of smelling the smell more fully. It's more like an invitation. Beginner's mind is an invitation to things. It's not only an invitation, it's an awareness of what you are currently aware of is a fraction of what's actually there to be aware of. And if you open yourself to the possibility of more, then that will show up. Well, now the smell of the what you call the cardboard is right away. Okay, I'm going to move into my mouth now. There's that familiar coffee feeling on the tongue, tip of the tongue, sides of the tongue, back of the tongue. I've got this left side thing going on where it's like the left side seems to have this increased presence. Right side, it's weird. It's like right side feels like one side feels like there's the light is on, and the other side feels like the light is off. It's interesting. All right, let's go from here to bell 2. Where's mine? There it is. Following the waves of the sound, disappears, go into the ground. So looking at the ground underneath my body, I'm going to move my legs a little bit, shift up, crisscross applesauce a little bit. Feels nice. Well, that's good. An armor down meditation cushion sure is comfortable on my butt. Okay, I'm going to kind of settle the legs into their new alignment. Come up to the pelvis, reaching the pelvis backwards. I'm going to try to reach the pelvis backwards, kind of like I'm sticking my butt out without lifting or moving my legs. So just the movement of the pelvis. I can feel as if I move slow, I can feel how my legs want to raise. Keep them from doing that. Just reaching back with the tailbone. Slow, 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 slow. Notice that engagement. I'm going to go the opposite direction, tucking the tailbone. I'll tell you this, it's been a long time that I've been doing these little movements, and what's happening is they just have more texture. There's just more qualities to the sensation itself. It's not so abstract. I mean, I kind of used to feel just pressure differences, but now there's like these layer of subtlety that's showing up. It's very much like reading a book for the first time versus reading a book for the second and third time. All these new things that you weren't aware of before are there on the same page, on the same letters, within the same thing that you've always looked at, but all of a sudden there's just this new awareness. There's this new texture that you didn't see before. So from there, come up to core. Here too, core has always had this, the opposite of beginner's mind. It's been the core needs to look this way. If the core looks a particular way, that's wrong, that's bad. Because that's wrong and bad, you're bad. You need to be this. So the predictive processor is basically projecting this negativity about self-image into reality as my reality. And so it's this feedback loop. Well, now that type of projection doesn't exist so much. What exists more is just a kind of a curiosity about these layers. And in Aikido, they talk a lot about your core. And what I've been noticing is that I never really had a core. I mean, I knew where it was and I knew what it looked like, but I didn't really know what it felt like. And so now there's this felt experience to the core that's just really helpful. And then also when I lift weights, it's just amazing how much more I feel things throughout my core as opposed to in my back. Heart space. Now, just real quiet, soft movements through the shoulder blades. There's just so much popping and moving and expanding. And I know how much I tense through my shoulders and my chest. So just kind of feeling slow shoulder blades, listening to the sounds of all those little pops and fascia changing. Move my legs again. This is a little bit more uncomfortable than I like. That feels better. Come back to the throat space. That feeling of the collar of my shirt connected to the skin, that showed up right away. Move the jaw around. Top of the head. A lot more birds now. I've got about 6 birds at least outside. And pull my awareness back in. So okay, come to the face. Move eyebrows a little bit. I've been teaching my kids how to lift one eyebrow at a time. I can do the left real well. Just starting to be able to do the right. Relax my eye muscles. Come to the sides of my face, cheeks, soften nose, soften chin. Finishing up second bell, third bell. Yuck. Did you hear that third hit? It's not a good one. It was like, dang, it was kind of like tinny. All right, let's come to breath. Breath in. And breath out. Let's take the breath down, belly breath. Just moving the belly. Let's do that 3 times. So beginner's mind doesn't exist as an idea. It exists as a present moment. So the present moment of each breath is the beginner's mind. So each breath is I wonder what this breath will feel like. And then the next breath comes. I wonder what this breath will feel like. And then the next breath comes. And I wonder what this will feel like. So it's just this participation with openness and curiosity as a beingness, not as a thinkingness, as a beingness. So let's go max out full body breath. Start at the bottom, get all the way up into the top. See if you can feel breath move from the bottom into the chest and into the upper back. Now add some holds, whether it's at the top or the bottom. Give yourself some opportunity to play around with the pausing of the breath and see what that feels like. It is amazing how much the breath has changed in terms of its immediacy of kind of influence over my inner being. So my inner world now has this accessibility to it. So I've just done a couple holds at the top and at the bottom. And one of the holds I did is this thing called a vacuum hold, where you blow all the air out and you kind of create this vacuum on the inside, and it changes everything internally. And then when you let it go, it has this readjustment element. And it's like, I know it has a blood flow element. And so after I let it go and breathe back in, I just immediately felt this really calming, like falling into stillness. And do that again. So how it works is you take your full breath in, and all the way out, but slow, and really work on pushing every bit of air out of the body. When you think you've done, try to breathe out of the nose, everything out, everything. And then once you've blown everything out, hold the breath. All the way in, hold again. Relax shoulders. And then let it go. That's some advanced breathing, so don't give yourself plenty of shoshin, plenty of beginner's mind around it. But there's that kind of dropped out kind of bliss feeling. Just kind of quiet. All right, let's go to fourth bell. With your inner voice, repeat after me. May I be at peace with the darkness in my mind. May I be at peace with the darkness in my body. May I be at peace with the darkness in my heart. May I be at peace with the darkness in my mind. May I be at peace with the darkness in my body. May I be at peace with the darkness in my heart. Now visualize darkness, visualize evil, visualize the enemy, visualize that which you fear. Humanize it. See an image of human. May you, the other, may you be at peace with the darkness in your mind. May you be at peace with the darkness in your heart. May you be at peace with the darkness in your body. May you be at peace with the darkness in your mind. May you be at peace with the darkness in your body. May you be at peace with the darkness in your heart. May we be at peace with the darkness in our minds. May we be at peace with the darkness in our bodies. May we be at peace with the darkness in our hearts. May we be at peace with the darkness in our minds. May we be at peace with the darkness in our bodies. May we be at peace with the darkness in our hearts. Spend a little time here checking in with the present moment, the processing speed of your mind, the type of predictions in your mind or their absence, the quiet, the general feel of your body. And then what's your emotions? What's your heart feel like? Let's finish up with 2 breaths. So beginner's mind is really always open, always participating with the fact that there's aspects to what's going on that you just didn't notice or you didn't see or you're not aware of. And that's a really important thing, because it's not that beginner's mind eliminates the potential for darkness or evil. It's that beginner's mind participates with darkness and evil at the state of curiosity. And the reason why it participates at the state of curiosity is because there's a level of resilience there. Darkness and evil can penetrate into your being and offer you an explanation for why things are the way they are and why you're right about your interpretation of them. That is a dangerous path. The reason why it's a dangerous path is because you don't know, nor can you know, everything that's going on. Can't do it. And so instead of trying to figure it out per se, you learn how to participate. You learn how to protect yourself. You learn how to understand the difference between a predictive process of blame versus a predictive process of shoshin. A predictive process of shoshin means that your brain will become a process of putting the prediction of curiosity into every moment. Remember, you're not just training just to train. You're training because your brain is being influenced by your training. The gear, the stuff that makes up the embodied human does what you train it to do, predicts what you train it to predict. If you predict blame, victimhood, darkness, if you predict the idea that you are all knowing, that's what your brain will put out there, that you know this, but you don't. It's not just you. That's why you're under God. That's why it's beginner's mind, shoshin. There is an element to humility that you can put out there. And that's really where resilience comes from. So we'll wrap this week of resilience up. And I hope it was something that, captured your thoughts and captured you in the practice. I hope you have a new relationship to resilience this week. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out all over social media. But Armor Down's here for you and your practice. So take advantage of that. See you later.